Hi, welcome to Clutter Bravado.
Yes, and it's the energy. It's not just about the stuff.
So we should probably just get into it, right?
Let's go.
Good morning, Laurent.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well.
Yeah?
I've been practicing again
Oh, go for it. Do it.
from the Kimberly Denman studio in Los Angeles. This is Clutter Bravado.
Oh, I like it.
Hi,
Hey, I think that sounds great. Do you want to start being the opener now?
welcome to Clutter Bravado. This is so. So it's Monday. It's Monday morning.
It is.
Lots happening in California.
Is it?
Well, next week is Design LA's
Oh,
new
yes.
iteration of the LCDQ.
Yes. Yes.
So that will be. It looks like there's an exciting array of panels and events, and
There are.
Yeah.
There are a lot of really great guests, there are a lot of really great topics that I'm looking at. Yeah, that's really fascinating. You know what's really crazy though is that that's already next week.
I know.
We're almost in May now.
Yep,
Since when?
that's in a couple of days. Yes,
Yeah.
we can say
Wait,
that.
May is in a couple of days. It's on Thursday.
Yeah. So that's next week.
Okay.
The Showcase House, the San Francisco Showcase House opened up, I think, yesterday,
Yes.
and is running through the month of May. So that's
The photos from that I've seen so far, I'm blown away.
I know
I'm blown away.
it looks really good. So
It's so beautifully done. I've been to previous like showcase houses in other places, and I think this one, like for the first time, like going through it, I'm like, oh, I cannot wait to walk into every single one of those rooms.
This
I
one-
mean, they really showed out this year.
we when Kimberly Demon when we did the one, it was, I believe, 2 years ago already.
Mm-hmm.
We had a nice room. We did a really big room, and it's one of those few showcase house where the community rallies behind it, and the designers really are, it's like they go all in. So I'm excited to
and
see
you
that.
have you have a few pieces in
Yeah,
there,
we
don't
have
you?
we have our Grace sofa, and Kathleen Navarre took 2 Geo armchairs that
Yes,
she
that's
did for
right.
it. Yeah, so
That's
I'm
right.
excited to go see those two.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So we're gonna go up there. We haven't picked a date yet.
We haven't picked a date, so
We have to figure that out.
We need to plan May.
We're not. This whole time I'm just like I've been in April. I've been in April brain, and May starts on Thursday. That's why I'm like having like I'm not really like crashing out about it, but I'm
And
having
then
a moment.
we need to go to the different one, but the Pasadena
The
showcase.
Pasadena Showcase House. Yes, that one actually. We should go this week.
Yeah,
Let's do it. We'll check it out and we'll report back so that
And I
everyone who's
believe
listening will know
that-
what we think.
if I'm not being completely stupid, because I haven't checked that, but New York has Keeps Bay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, New York is going to be so busy this month
Oh my
of May.
gosh.
So that's
Okay.
we can't make it there, but it's going to be fun. New York is going to be fun. Tiff off, Keeps Bay. I mean,
There's so
That's
much
the
stuff
season, yeah.
happening. This is the season. You know, for the past like month, maybe 6 weeks, I've been a little bit in hibernation mode where like I've been working on a lot of things behind the scenes, doing a lot of work for a client, doing a lot of work for the podcast behind the scenes. You know how they say like, do all of your work in silence and then suddenly, appear. I don't know if that's what I'm doing. I do know that I'm doing a lot of work and that I haven't been to a social engagement in a very long time.
yeah.
You went to an event recently though.
At Pucci, yeah.
Yeah.
That was really fun. I got to see a lot of our friends, and the show was good. The showroom looks great at Pucci.
Oh, cool.
New pieces. So that was, we need to go. We actually need to go
Okay.
and check it out. And So it was fun
Nice.
because I had not seen a few people either in a couple of weeks. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, maybe more.
So one thing that I have been working on that does tie into Poochie and a few of the other showrooms is that I've been working on Substack, on some Substack articles, putting some things together, talking about the things that we are interested in, that we love, or that we know about. You know, some things that are coming up. So, doing deeper dives in some of our guests and their work. Being able to incorporate photos into it, and you know, the written word. I've been a writer for a long time, so it's a chance for me to sort of play with that too, and exercise that muscle. And one of the things that we are going to be doing is talking about some of our favorite showrooms and some collections there, some artisans and people that we know. So that's something to keep an eye out for. We're not launching it quite yet, but it's going to be coming up within the next couple of weeks, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. It caught on.
I mean, here's the thing, I I miss writing. During the pandemic and in 2020, like that was primarily what I was doing. 2020 through 2022, I was writing constantly, and I was working on. I had like a Medium page. I don't know if anyone really uses Medium now that Substack is available, so I kind of pivoted away from that. But I was on Medium, and I was also working on a book, and I haven't really been exercising that writing muscle, but being able to write about the things that I see and I have a lot of passion for describing what I'm seeing, and doing it in the written word is really fun. So I've been playing with that a little bit. That's something to keep an eye out for. And also, I realized that in going back through and listening to a few of our episodes, we don't talk about our Instagram on here enough. We've mentioned it like twice.
Really?
Yeah.
Have we mentioned that whoever is listening to this podcast, please hit the subscribe button.
Yeah.
Also,
Yes.
just it makes us look a little bit better.
It does make us look better.
So if you're listening, just take the 2 seconds. Please
Yeah.
hit subscribe. So and then Instagram. Go ahead.
Yes. We cut a lot of our episodes down into some reels, and I know that there are like services that will do that for you. I do it myself. And I like to. It's fun. So what you're seeing is like just my favorite parts of every episode, that, and you know, really great segments of interviews and little snippets that are fun. That's, you know, there are short form content, but that we do on here. And and yeah, you can find it on our Instagram, which is at Clutter Bravado, all one word, at Clutter Bravado on Instagram. Follow us. Then you can also follow us each individually, but you're going to get very different kinds of content, I think.
Well, me, it's going to be very easy.
Yeah,
You're not
for
going to
you,
get
I
anything.
mean, yeah, you don't post anything that I don't, you know, that we're not
Right,
posting on
exactly.
Clutter Bravado.
So maybe I should start. It's never too
You
late.
should.
All dogs, new tricks.
I mean,
That's our
what
next
whole,
podcast.
That's what this whole thing is about, really. It's just like, look
Oh,
what
look.
Laurent could do.
Look, you looked at it. You're like, all dogs, new trick. Let's make him on a Let's put him on a podcast. Do you have a bet with someone?
What?
Did you just make a bet with someone? Be like, no, I can tell you, I'm gonna get Laurent on camera, and someone bet that you would not, and that's why we're here.
No, if that would have happened, I would have more money because I would have won.
Shit. True.
I would have done a great job of it, because not only are you doing that, but you should probably start a TikTok or something.
Oh yeah, for sure. TikTok. You know that I've discovered TikTok through you, right?
I know.
Yeah. And it's still not on my phone.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Actually, okay, we mentioned this in a previous episode, but how I'm like trying to cut down on my social media. And I learned a couple of tips. Can I share them with you?
Of course.
Okay. First one. Did you know that you can put your phone in grayscale?
Yeah. Well, now I do. And I still have not done it though.
So I don't do it all day, because obviously working in a visual medium and wanting to see what's happening in design. I obviously am using my social media because I want to keep up with what's going on. But sometimes I can sort of get stuck in it. So setting my phone to grayscale after, an hour or so of using my phone, it helps me to not want to open it up because it's so boring. It's really neat how your eyes work like that. So that's number one. Number two, I do have timers set. So I set a timer for my social media, obviously because I'm working on there. I can't just not use Instagram. I can't just not use TikTok.
Right.
I have to be on there, but I don't have to be scrolling on it. So that's a huge thing. So I set a timer and I've been obeying it so far.
You have.
I have not. When the thing comes up that says the time limit has been reached, I put my phone down. I know. Can you believe it? The restraint.
Talking about what did you say? Working muscles.
I know.
Discipline muscle, riding muscle. How is your leg muscle with your marathon going, by the way?
I love that you asked. I love that you asked that. I ran 8 miles yesterday. I don't do that.
6 too many, but yeah.
So, I mean, it's 8 too many. I'm not a runner, but all of a sudden I'm a runner. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
I can run 8 miles. And my average, my pace was about 10 minutes and 45 seconds per mile. That's a reasonable pace. I was actually going. I ran for 90 minutes straight yesterday. What on earth?
I mean, that's where we're grateful to be in California because you ran in
Santa Monica.
You found a
It's
couple.
gorgeous. With my and it's with my run club, which we are running the Nike After Dark Tour women's half marathon, and I'm so excited about that. It's going to be really, really fun. Are you going to be there?
Of course I'll come.
You come support me?
Of course I will.
Thank you. My mom's going to be there.
Oh, your mom's coming?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, we'll be. I'll buy 2 pairs of pom-poms then.
But yeah, it's really interesting. So there are a lot of things in my life right now that, like I said, I've been sort of in hibernation mode, doing a lot of work on the inside, and one of those is trying to get off my phone as a hobby. I was kind of just on my phone just to occupy my brain, and it's holding off boredom. And boredom is where your creativity lives. So when your brain starts to get bored, or when you start to get bored, you start to do more creative things. So, for example, I'm redecorating my apartment. I am writing more. I am reading more, and also running. And I'm staying really active, because if you run one day a week and then you don't do anything else for the rest of the week, your body hurts so bad.
Right.
And I don't want to put myself through that. So I'm doing the cross training and all of that stuff. So it's not I'm trying to I'm not trying to do everything perfectly, but I'm just trying to sort of divert away from the things that I know aren't serving me right now.
Right.
And
I think that's a healthy thing to do.
It's a healthy path, I guess.
It
But
is.
I mean, you do all this stuff naturally, which is wild.
No, I don't.
You work out 4 days a week. You wake up at what? 6 in the morning?
Yeah, but it's not natural.
It's because you're
Grandpa goes to bed early.
old.
Grandpa goes to bed early, and so
What time
wakes
do you
up
go to bed?
early. Most of the time around 10.
Okay.
And so 10 to 6, 10 to 5:30, it's decent. I mean 10:30, and it depends.
So getting a good full night's sleep, it's very healthy. It's very good for you.
Especially when you're my age.
Yeah, I mean,
This podcast is not doing well. And then on top of that, we have to start talking about our guest. And you had kicked me out of that interview.
okay, that is not how that went.
So old dogs kicked out. Are you saying something?
That's not what happened. That's not how it happened.
It did.
I did not. Oh, I didn't kick you out. We had, listen, we didn't have space for 4.
I seem to remember that you were you're old. Why don't you go? No, that's not what happened.
That's absolutely not what happened.
Okay, good.
I don't like that you're accusing me of ageism right now. I can listen. I bully you a little bit because we're friends, okay?
A
But
little? Wow. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad we're.
okay, but listen, this is the episode. We talked about this before, where I didn't know how to start the interview. So all of you who are listening are going to pay attention to the first, I don't know, 30 seconds, minute of the interview, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not looking at the camera. I was addressing the audience, but I was in a weird angle. Everything. I was so off and uncomfortable. And do you know why that is? Because you weren't there with me.
Threw you for a loop, huh?
It did.
I was in the crowd, and you were like, "What?
I know. What do I do? But I did do this interview on my own.
It was great.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Thank you.
I really thought it was fantastic. It is a fantastic interview. I love listening to, because I didn't know Jonathan Browning's story all that well. I love listening to it. I think that it's funny because we had bought a pair of sconces from him to do the showcase house in San Francisco 2 years ago. Yeah. So that's where we had gotten to meet him and know him, but I didn't know, and so it's really interesting. A lot of fun tidbits, both personal and also technical. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great interview.
He's really fascinating, and it was got to interview him and then Kyle Urbanik, who is working with him, and does a lot of like the tech stuff.
Tech stuff, yeah.
So he's doing like 3D imaging and the engineering side of it. So I found them both really interesting, and also Kyle is like, he's from my home state, has been to my hometown, and spent a lot of time where I went to college too. So like, and nobody's from there.
It's
So it was
amazing
really
how
cool.
many people we've met who
have a connection to Wisconsin.
I mean,
Isn't that crazy?
Rosemary, and I mean, it's also amazing how many people are from the Chicago area in our industry.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating.
That was crazy with Rosemary, though.
Yeah, Rosemary,
Who is the director of the Palm Springs Modernism show. Her sister lives in my hometown.
Right. But we've had that,
And it's like
quite a bit.
7,000 people. Nobody lives there. That's crazy.
So it's interesting because you're like, oh, nobody's from there, and I'm like, wait, I've met so many people who started talking to you, being like, oh yeah, I'm from there. Oh, I was there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's wild.
So we should.
I mean, listen, I feel like it's time. Should we get to it?
Let's go.
Hi, how are you? My name is Elise. I'm going to be hosting this beautiful panel today. Normally, I am the host of Clutter Bravado, and we will be filming for Clutter Bravado podcast. And my beautiful co-host over here, Laurent, who is my assistant today, give him a little wave. We're going to get started with our incredible guests today. So we have Jonathan Browning and Kyle Urbanik. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Great. Thank you guys for coming.
Welcome to the DeSousa Hughes showroom, which you're very familiar with. So we can see that the chandelier above us here, this is one of your pieces, and there are a handful of them all over. And you've mentioned that there's an entire sconce room in the back that's all yours. That's incredible. Yeah. So I've done some deep research on you and your career, Jonathan especially. And do you prefer Jonathan or John?
Jonathan.
Jonathan, beautiful. So you've been in California for most of your career.
Yes. Well, I worked a lot in Europe, but yes.
In Europe as well. You went to school here in Berkeley.
I did.
And then was it USC?
No, I went to SCIARC.
Oh, yes.
Southern California Institute of Architecture.
Amazing.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Very
So
progressive school.
right after you graduated from school, you got started working in retail. So you were designing retail stores. And tell me a little bit about how that has informed where you are right now.
Well, I'm outrageously lucky. Like I think so many people, when I went to college, it was just because my parents were smart and said, you have zero choice in this matter. You're getting a serious education. And at the time, I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer. And they said, absolutely not. You're going to get a real education, then you can do that. So when I got out of Berkeley, I had the luckiest break. I did not become a fashion designer, but I was hired by the hottest brand in fashion at the time, which was Esprit. Unfortunately, it's semi-forgotten today. But Doug and Susie Tompkins, who are a major San Francisco couple here, they had created the most amazing culture and brand and sort of standards that few companies live up to today, design-wise. And within a year of starting with them, I was the assistant visual director for Esprit Europe. So I was living as a 26-year-old or something in Düsseldorf, Germany, traveling from Denmark down to Italy, opening stores with the most famous architects in Europe. So
Wow.
Norman Foster and Eva Jarikna and Ettore Sotsas, the Memphis Group, you name them, they hired all of them. And so I was so inspired by that and blown away. I realized, wow, doing windows and visual merchandising is not really the end all of where I want to spend my life. And at age 27, I quit that glamorous job, which was amazing, and went back to school to get my master's in architecture. And I never wanted to be an architect, so that's an odd way to circumvent life. But it's the mother of all arts, and I wanted the most serious design training I could get, so I went to SciArc. And ironically, it's probably the most progressive design school for architecture in the U.S. for sure. And Frank Gehry was a teacher there, lots of people like that. And when the history of architecture, which is a year-long course, got to the late 19th century in France at the École des Beaux-Arts, I went crazy. And I thought it was like crack. I thought it was the most glamorous thing I'd ever seen. And that's not the school to go to if that's what you're into. So anyway, I got out of that. And then I did go into retail design. I was designing stores rather than doing windows. And so I like to say I worked for every fashion company you can name. It's almost true. I think I worked for maybe 10 different companies.
I mean, it's Rodeo Drive, it's Michigan Avenue, it's Broadway.
Broadway in New York. Yeah, I've done flagship stores in all the major retail kind of holy meccas. And I've done things as diverse as working for a fashion brand in Holland and redesigning their stores completely. And then moving to Columbus, Ohio to work for Les Wexner, doing 50 Victoria's Secret stores. So I have a broad sort of history in retail. And then I had a miracle happen. I was called to being recruited for a job to be head of all hotel design for Starwood Hotels and Resorts Worldwide. And that call came out of the blue one day. And in the late 90s. And I said, well, I don't have any experience. And they said, that's what we're looking for. The CEO will not hire anyone from the hospitality industry or, that was it. He will only interview people who have retail or restaurant design experience. And I said, well, that's me.
Yeah.
And it took 6 months, and I ended up getting the job, and it was the most glamorous experience of my life. It was also the hardest. So I did that, and then 9/11 kind of squashed all that. And then I had to make a choice. And I either had to go back into another corporate job, probably in retail design. There weren't other great hotel jobs at that level, or start my own thing. Mm-hmm.
And you started your own thing.
I started my own thing, and now it's too late to quit.
You've been doing it you've had Jonathan Browning Studio for, was it
21 years?
21 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 2004.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell me about how the two of you ended up meeting. So
That's
Kyle, a little bit about what
you tell.
Well, you can tell us about yourself. Definitely the more technical side. Speaking to the mic, you got it.
Well, I got a bachelor's of fine art in glass blowing and ceramics, and I was, the typical hippie with the long hair and the fish shirt and all that. And right after, I didn't just start working. I actually moved out to San Francisco, and I knew I wanted to do industrial design, so I went back to school again. And I got another BFA, of course. Why would you not get the same degree over and over and over again? But I went to the Academy of Art here, and I took it really seriously, and it was a good time. But right when I was about to graduate, I thought maybe I'd design ski equipment or outdoor, type equipment. And I got a message from a teacher at the school, and they're like, someone's looking for a person that can do 3D modeling and engineering. And I'm like, well, I'm not an engineer, so who would you like? Who are you going to get? And they said, go over to the studio and meet this guy. Like, okay, yeah, whatever. And I ride my motorcycle over there. I park like 2 blocks away because I don't want him to know that I ride the big Harley. I walk in, and I've been there a long time. But yeah, I walked in, and we just kind of started it. I mean, a week later, I was on the computer working and figuring out how to build a light, basically.
How long ago was that now?
13 years ago.
13 years ago. I love
Yeah,
it.
so I did the internship kind of thing, a couple days a week, and then right when I graduated, I just started working full time and more than full time.
And now he runs the company.
So talk to me a little bit about how 3D modeling has affected the way that the studio runs. So just a quick overview on that. So for most of your prototyping, you're using 3D models, and then when you're talking to clients or showrooms, you're giving them that first, so they're able to see what it looks like. It's something that's also a lot easier to carry around.
A little lighter.
Yeah, a little lighter, and also it shows how customizable it is. So tell me a little bit how that evolution came about.
It's like all good things in life. It was just a complete accident. The reason that Kyle was hired is that my partner Marco said, we don't have any of our own drawings for our own products. I'm an architect by training, never by practice, and all I know how to do is draft. So I would draft drawings of these 3-dimensional pieces, very hard to do accurately by hand, and I would dimension them, and we'd send that off to whatever factory I was working with. They would have to do their own drawings, and 3D models, and then build from that. But they owned those drawings. So Mark was like, we need to find someone who can memorialize all of your designs. And so that's what he started as. And then it took, I don't know, a week or two, and suddenly he's building these models that he can then render, and they look like a photograph of a finished piece. And I'm like, oh, fuck. That's transformative, because I think one of the deadliest things you could ever do is go on sales calls to designers' offices with your existing catalog and pictures, products they already know, and say, I'd like to share this with you today. And this was my inspiration. Who cares what your inspiration was? People want to see great product. So what I started doing was I took all of my designs, which were a backlog of things I wanted to get to, and had Kyle render them. And then I went on the road and said, you know what? I'm sure you've seen my catalog. Let's not even look at that today. Let's look at all the things I'm working on. And suddenly, everyone sits up, and they come from their desk, and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So it was transformative in that way. And it also allowed me, I'm extremely visual, I would say to the exclusion of all the other senses, but it allowed me to see things crystal clear in a rendering in a matter of hours that would have just stayed an image in my head, because the drawing would have been the only thing I'm using to communicate to the factory. So oftentimes, how we work is Kyle will we'll discuss something, he'll render it, and then we'll tweak it from there, or change it, or abandon it from there. But it's like seeing a photo of a finished product, and that's just infinitely more useful.
I wouldn't say that drawings are my strong point, but I can definitely do engineering and drawings, and it was fun. It was a training that he almost didn't know he was giving me, because I went down in the basement, I started taking apart everything. I got digital calipers and tools, and I just had free reign basically to go as fast or slow as I wanted. But I took everything apart, measured it, built it how I wanted, and we even made some changes to old things because it just wasn't as logical as it could have been maybe, or to keep the mounting plates the same or whatever. But it was a really fun experience to see how this type of high-end lighting was built. Things are cast, things are machined from solid blocks. That's not a common thing in lighting. Usually it's a bent metal or cheaper manufacturing. And it was just really cool to kind of jump into the high end and in a matter of months basically learn how the best lighting in the world is made,
Right.
and start from there instead of this low point,
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really where I started, and then where he helped elevate us. I never, ever wanted to design anything but the top quality. Having done hundreds of hotels when I was at Starwood, budget is absolutely everything. And I remember doing 1,000 rooms at the Sheraton at 53rd and 7th Avenue. And 1,000 rooms was being redone. My budget was $35 per sconce. You had to be pretty creative to do something, and given that was 20 years ago, so let's call it $50 today. That you can't do what I want to do, and sell it for $50. So when I started, I said, screw cost. I want to do the best quality, and everything we did was cast bronze with the finest foundry in the United States at the time. Now they're retired and they're gone. It was called Syracast. And every great building in this country that has been renovated and needed cast bronze work, that's the foundry that did it. And they're just magnificent. And that was set a quality standard for us. And then same with glass blowers. Then we got into lead crystal, and now we use a lot of porcelain. But we only work with the best people. And I'm like, you know what? I try to keep the cost down, or we try to something that is buyable, that is affordable within this industry, but it's never where we start. We don't design into our price point, it's about making the object the most perfect version of what it can be.
Yeah, so I want to go into a little bit of that sort of creative process, because your pieces, they don't often look just like each other. Like with a lot of designers, there will be like a very specific look that they carry on through the entire collection. And I went through your entire collection, and obviously there are a lot of things that are related to each other, but there's so much evolution and so many different kinds of styles. So tell me about what that creative process looks like when it comes to just sort of coming up with something out of thin air.
I'd say we have an advantage that we're able to do that, actually, because there's no limitation. They're not expecting a blown glass thing or a cast piece or whatever. We can literally come up with anything we want, and if we think it's going to work and it's beautiful, we can run with it.
And what did we just get back from?
We were just traveling around the south of France every day. Me and Jonathan drove to a new city, so we slept in a new hotel every day.
No
unpacked
way.
our stuff every day, but each day was a different flea market or art gallery or whatever. And we just did that every single day and had a lot of drinks in the way, but it was fun. But
And a lot of car damage.
but it's good because not only do we get inspiration, but we get to talk to each other literally all day long and all night long for 8 to 10 days or whatever. And that's really useful because even if you're not being inspired, we're discussing all kinds of new things. So it's really a great experience.
Yeah, and I always say, I get asked a lot, where do you get your inspiration? And I'm like, it's not something I do and then don't do. It's not like going to work. It's like having a little radar on in the back of your head that you actually can't turn off. My husband Marco, many, many times over the years, will be at a restaurant or something, and I'll just say, oh my God, that pendant is hideous. Like, why do they do that? And he goes, can you just shut it off? And my response is always, no, I can't. It's something that's always on, and I'm always critiquing what I'm looking at because I'm that visual. In fact, it's odd, but I find music super distracting. I hate having it on I can't have it on in my office. I have the TV on in the background, and I like to yell at the TV because it's Trump. But for real. I'm so visual, and that's what's fun about it, is going to the south of France in January and freezing our butts off, going to cities I've never been to in any season. I don't even know that area, but where these kind of legendary flea markets happen for dealers only. I'm like, we're going to see something there we're not going to see here if we stay home. And invariably, that is what happens. We found the world's weirdest fucked up sconce that we bought a pair of. They look like they were built for some great Orient Express train in the 19th century, which they probably were. But instead of electrified, they have a candle inside them. And it's hard to describe, but the way the candle's held and the way it opens up is the weirdest thing. So we're going to be producing
of course, we're not going to just do the sconce, but it's amazing how many little details you can find. The foot on a floor lamp, or we walk around, we get lunch, and the building has a cool texture or whatever. There's so many times we'll be eating, and he'll just tap me. You got to go to the bathroom. There's this weird architectural light in stall 3. Like, okay, for real.
That happened at the Louvre years ago.
That was at the Louvre. I love it.
For real. I told him to go to the bathroom.
And then we designed 10 or 12 fixtures that are in that style, but they weren't that fixture, obviously. But you never know.
And that begins to answer your question, why isn't there sort of one look? And in the beginning, I did have one look. I was combining my two favorite things at that time, which were French Beaux-Arts classicism, which I already explained, I love, and just pure minimal industrial design. And combining those two things was something I just thought was the end all of chic. And it was really beautiful. And we still have a couple of pieces in the line from then. But it was a very narrow view. Not everyone wants some new version of chic minimal classicism in their house. And it's when we came out with the Pentagon chandelier, which is in the other room, it literally was selling every single day we were selling a chandelier. I'm like, okay, I surrender. Everyone wants mid-century modern. I have to get out of 1890 and get into 1950 or at least 1940. And literally, I just started looking at other books and history of that era and shapes. And then we've probably quadrupled in size monetarily since I got out of the late 19th century.
You know, that's interesting that you say that too, because there are some designers and some artisans that are out there that have their specific look, and they're like, if you like it, you like what I like. If you like this style, this is what I have to offer. And I think that for you, like, you're very much a businessman, and you're like, if the clients are looking for this, if this is what's in, I want to be able to make something that will fit with what they're looking for, but that is still going to be the quality.
Still be the quality
Exactly.
and the aesthetic that I love. And one of I would say our most mid-century looking piece is the Montfaucon sconce, and it's just a conical piece of porcelain, and that was not taken from any piece from history. But that I just thought back to my childhood, and I'm like, oh, those horrible spun aluminum bullet lights that are on a pole, and it's like George Jetson. I hate that. Then I'm like, but it's actually a nice shape. And then I'm like, how do you elevate that? Well, you do it out of porcelain, which is very difficult to do. And porcelain glows very unlike any glass. It's its own thing. And so that, I think, is probably our most 50s looking piece, and yet it is a completely original. It's not like, oh, let me look at Eames or whatever.
Yeah. Also, it's interesting that you're so visual. I think you're the first person that I've spoken to that's like, I can't listen to music and I can't, cutting out all the other senses. I find that really, really fascinating. Do you still feel like you have an emotional connection to the things that you're creating or to your creative process, or is this a very like type A, just getting it done?
Oh, no. I think I fall in love with pieces.
You do?
Oh, I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, in my guest room in my house here in the city, I have 2 Lorient sconces. They're the most difficult thing we ever made. Thank God we don't make them today. They really were just such a pain. But they're beautiful, and those are hanging in that bedroom. And I still love that sconce. So I would say it's kind of like Sophie's Choice. You're not supposed to like one more than the other, but I do, even within my own line. But I fall in love with pieces. And I often come back to pieces and say, Kyle, why don't we try this with that thing? We do a lot of that.
Yeah, it's fun to update. I mean, he taught me a lot about history of architecture, obviously, because we're traveling all the time together. And I prefer clean lines and modern things, but it's really cool to bounce ideas back and forth, because he's going to stray that way, obviously, and I'm going to try to pull the other way. Right. But when it comes together, I think we have like the stars align. I don't know. Totally. But it looks in the middle. And it's exactly what it is. It's it's clean, but it has that historical significance where it's not just some new ugly modern LED light.
So I have a question for you then. You started off and you were like, yeah, maybe I'll make ski equipment or something with your long hair and your fish T-shirt or whatever. And I can totally envision that so something that you all should know that we found out the other day is that he went to school at the same place that both of my sisters went to school, and spent a lot of time there. And a lot of hippies there. So you said you're rolling up on your Harley. I'm like, I understand this guy. So how did you go from walking in that day to your first day working with Jonathan Browning to then now having this like appreciation for architecture and for clean lines? Like, was there a moment that you can remember that you had sort of a switch flip, or is it more of a general evolution over time?
I think when I was blowing glass, I had a production glass blowing job for 5 years during school, and we were doing the same shapes over and over again. It was really boring, but I always preferred those cleaner lines or smoother, more tangent curves. And same with ceramics. I'm not really into the lumpy, I don't know how to explain it, but I really like just technical, like how good are you at blowing glass? How good are you at throwing a pot? How perfect can it be? And I don't know. I think it's just everything worked out. Lighting is a beautiful thing. You can use all the materials. You need to know how everything works. And I don't know, is it more of a transition from one thing to another versus a switch?
Yeah. So speaking of the evolution, where are we going now? What's next? What's on the horizon?
Well, oddly, I'd say more production in-house. Not something we've ever concentrated on. We tend to work with artisans all over the world. We make porcelain in China, where it was invented, in the actual region where it comes from thousands of years ago. And we make things in Berkeley, like all over the place. And we're really fortunate. Just by necessity, we had a beautiful office building some people here may have been to, over 4 blocks from here. And it was at one time our warehouse below, office above, and it was just magnificent. That's where he started working for us. And we sold that building a few years ago because it wasn't big enough to be a warehouse, and it was too big. It was 6,000 square feet, too big for 2 days a week for 8 people to work in, which is all we were working in the office. So we sold it. And we've bought this magnificent facility in Sonoma, which is 40,000 square feet on 2.5 acres, surrounded by wineries, which is appropriate at our company. and it's only 10 minutes from the town square. And we have so much space. We're going to be renting out about half of that, which will pay for the whole facility, which is beautiful. And but we don't even need all 20. But what we do have room for the first time is actually equipment to be making parts. And Kyle is an impatient person, and he's already been buying machines that are in his garage nearby. But it's going to be fun because I've never wanted to be locked in. The problem with doing your own production is then you design into what you can make, obviously. So if you can't make porcelain, you're not going to design a porcelain shade. So I love the flexibility of how we do it, but there's a lot to be said for having more control and being able to just fix something yourself instead of going back to the factory. There's a lot of advantages. So I'm actually really excited, and that's really his wheelhouse. You love to know how things are made.
Yeah.
You like to make them yourself, and so yeah, I'm excited about that as a new face.
When I told my wife I'm going to buy a giant Haas 5-axis CNC and put it in her garage, she looked at me like, he's actually going to do it. I did it. It's been amazing. It's been so fun making parts and just doing stuff, but we have a lot of opportunity. I think finishing is something that isn't around the area. Like, we use all kind of people, but there's not great finishers around. And there's just so many other things we could take advantage of with 40,000 square feet and a giant amount of power going to that building. It's going to be really fun. We have a crate making facility kind of set up already. And I really look forward to being there. You know?
That's really great. So speaking of that new property that you're working on and the new workshop, you have a handful of other properties that are sort of in the works and that are established right now. And I want to talk specifically about your chateau in France. I have heard so many people say that they've been through that space or taken a tour of it. I'm curious, what is the current status of it? And do you want to give us like a quick background on that space?
Did she say quick?
I know.
I said quick. Listen, we're going to be low on time. I've got about like a few minutes. You got it.
I'm a victim of my own obsessions my entire life. The only one thing I really ever wanted was an amazing palatial country house.
Only one little thing. Yeah.
It's not like a dog.
I'm just looking for a castle.
To me, houses are the most exciting thing, which is why I love doing lighting. People collect different things. I've ended up collecting houses. We have 6 properties. But what I really wanted is not what I got. What I really wanted was an East Coast grand Gilded Age house. If you've been to Newport or the North Shore of Long Island, those were the greatest American houses. There was really a renaissance, I think, in design and building in the U.S., which is about 1875, 1880 to about 1920, or you could say till the First World War. And those were classically trained, École Beaux-Arts, Parisian trained architects, and both men and women, and they built houses on a scale and of a quality this country had never seen before. And this country was trying to catch up to Europe, and they surpassed Europe in those execution of those houses. I wanted to buy one of those because they were white elephants for a very long time. By the time I had the means to even think about buying one for a few million, like in horrible condition, they were too desirable because we're in the second Gilded Age now. We're done with the first one, the one I'm obsessed with. But this one, all these billionaires are snapping up those same houses that have become seminaries and golf clubs and abandoned, schools, and making them back into single-family homes on a scale of 50, 60, 70,000 square foot houses. So I was priced out of the North Shore, and then I started looking in France. And if you want to just look at real estate porn, just go to Le Figaro or Mercure Group, any of these websites.
Are you writing this down? Yes. Okay, great.
France is on sale. It's on sale. It truly is. And I couldn't figure out why, but now I know why. In France, there are roughly 40 to 45,000 chateaux. That's a lot for a small country. And at any given time, 1,500 are for sale. So the French don't appear to want them, and they can't command big prices. So big, beautiful limestone palatial houses go for very little over there. You can look in the $500,000 range and find a ton of them. What I found is exceptional. What I found with the help of a great friend, Timothy Corrigan, who's back when it was a thing, an AD 100 designer. I would say he's the nicest person in the whole industry. He is on his third chateau, and he had sold his second one, was looking for the third one, and found this one. And for reasons that are too long to go into, he didn't buy it, and he told me about it, and then I ended up buying it. And you can't buy a one-bedroom nice condo downtown in San Francisco for what I paid for 30 acres and a 26,000 square foot chateau from the late 19th century that is absolutely palatial with 18th century boiserie inside. It's just a magnificent example of that Belle Epoque. In fact, you might know the Carolans is a house here in Hillsborough. The same architect that designed that designed the chateau that I now own. And it's next door to Paris. It's half an hour by train, and you're in the middle of Paris. It's very close. So it's a great location. Most chateaus are much further away.
I might be in Paris next month.
You're welcome.
So we'll talk. We'll talk.
Okay.
Because I might have to
it's
go
like
visit.
a design laboratory.
Yeah.
It's just I've been restoring it for 4 years now. It took 3 years just to do the exterior. Mm-hmm. We did all the stone, 101 windows, all new slate, a glass roof on the curved orangerie. So it has this great conservatory roof. And I plan to just keep working on it. It's an ongoing project for the rest of my life. And the more I do that kind of thing, the more informed I become about design and the artistry of these workers that do the work.
And it must also
great.
just feel really nice to be in a chateau in France.
Does it feel nice in the winter?
I'm sleeping in my winter hat and Sherpa pants. But no, it is still beautiful. It snowed the last time we were there, and I went for a hike down the driveway. That's a hike.
Oh my gosh.
I went for a long, long walk, and I turned back and wow. In the snow, it is so beautiful. And it was just, the sun was coming up. It was something else.
Wow.
Yeah, we only heat a few bedrooms, so it's 32 or 36 or 38 degrees, depending on the day, in the rest of the chateau, in the hallway, in the rooms. We're getting to that soon, but he's roughed it there.
Wow. Wow. Well,
It's like
I definitely
glamping
hope to visit it.
in a chateau.
That's incredible. So I do want to get to there are 3 questions that I ask every guest that we have on the podcast, Clutter Bravado. And also, if you're not familiar with Clutter Bravado as a podcast, you can find us on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, any place that you find a podcast, you can find us there. Please go ahead and follow us. But so there are 3 questions that we ask everyone, and I'll invite both of you to answer. The first one, what is the messiest place in your home?
Oh, that's easy.
Dal, you can go first.
My husband's office. By far.
Yeah.
It used to be the whole house, but we've been together for 31 years now, and I've trained him that mess has to be contained only to his office. So, by far the messiest.
Okay. Sure, go
I
ahead.
think I take pride in the fact that our house doesn't look like we have children, but I do have 2 small children, and it's a very clean house. But my desk, my wife would say it's my desk,
Okay.
but these are organized piles, just so everyone knows. I know what's in all of those piles, but it doesn't look good. It's definitely not a showcase house desk. Yeah.
Okay. Wait, you have 2 small kids and you're like, oh yeah, everything is fine except for my desk? How
Yeah,
do you pull
it's-
that off? That's incredible.
My wife's a big help, but
Wow,
I'm
wow.
also pretty A-type,
Yeah.
following them around.
Oh, I understand. Got it. Got it. Okay, second question for you. When you walk into a new space, what is the first thing that you notice?
What do you bash first?
Yeah. I was gonna say, it would all depend on what's either the most beautiful or the ugliest thing in the room. What would catch my eye immediately. And I do try to take in as much as possible without thinking, but I do that. I scan over. And if something is ugly, I focus on it and mentally change it.
I have a lot of friends ask me questions about what they should get for their new houses. A lot of people buying houses my age. But I think lighting really is I'm skewed, obviously, but I think it really does set the mood. And you can have the worst furniture, a weird table, and if the room is the right temperature and lit well, and the beautiful fixture, it really helps. I mean, you could have IKEA below, and it's still going to look great.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I really like that. I also do like that you're willing to admit that you will look for what you hate first.
Yeah.
Because I like to say like, oh no, I look for something that's really beautiful or the architecture. Like, no, I'm gonna pick out the thing that I think is the ugliest, and I'm gonna hold on to that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a little judgmental.
Years and years ago, Diane Doran Sakes asked me to do a talk for her about the 10 most beautiful lights in the world. And so I talked about Hagia Sophia and Istanbul and all these great examples. And I said, but I have to be able to put a couple of the ones I hate the most. And one of them is here in San Francisco. It's 2 sconces in front of this person's house in Pacific Heights. I hate these sconces. I can't even tell you. You should see them. They're monstrosities. So I put that in. And she wasn't thrilled, but she was like, okay. She was like, let's not diss people. I'm like,
That's amazing. I also there's a neighborhood in LA that is, like the Mount Olympus neighborhood is like really beautiful, yeah. And there are a few houses that are in there that when I drive past it, there's this one that has like a blue light with like a dolphin in front of the house, and I'm like, like every time I think of that neighborhood now, all I can think about is that dolphin. I just can't stand it. Yeah.
Who decided that is going to be the one?
Who picked it? Yeah, who picked that? Like all of these gorgeous houses and whatever, and then you have the dolphin. Anyway, moving on. So our last question is, what is your favorite place in your home? And you can pick any of them. the 6.
well, that makes it hard. If it's all
Okay, well,
six.
how about the one that you're currently in?
So San Francisco.
Yes.
I'm trying not to say it, but I think it actually is. I think my office. It's just a bedroom of the house, but I have a very unusual house for San Francisco. It's a Mediterranean from 1931, but it's really an LA duplex. If you think of Melrose Place or all of those examples in West Hollywood, Fairfax District. It's one unit down below with the exterior staircase and another unit. It was built that way. And it's extra wide. It's 53 feet wide. There's a swimming pool. And it's on one of the steepest hills in the city. But my office is a former bedroom that's on the view side where everything falls off that side. So I have a spectacular view of the whole downtown, East Bay, and even Angel Island to the north. And I have a day bed that I designed many years ago when I was actually at Starwood Hotels. And I push that up against the window. And so I have my TV that I yell at, that's at the end of that. But I sit at this end, and that's the window, and I'm looking at downtown. Wow. And so when I take a break or just read something, I often just go lay down for a bit. And it's just the happiest place. And like Marco has to keep all of his shit in his office. All of my classicism, he doesn't want to look at, so that's all in my office. So my office is stepping back into the mid-19th century or late 19th century with the art and the furniture in that room. And so I happen to love that, even if it's not what I design. It's what I like to live in. So it feels amazing to be in that room and be connected to the city visually, but away from it as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What about yours, Kyle?
Mine would easily be the garage. I was actually
I had a feeling
Yeah.
that's what you were going to say.
I was born in Wisconsin, so if I could answer basement, I would, because
love
that's where
it.
most people tend to
Yeah.
have their shop or studio. But I work on motorcycles and my cars and just always making things. So I take over the garage at any house we own or anywhere, and I'll take more than that too. But yeah, I love going down there. People go to bed, and that's where I gravitate to. I just hang out and do my thing, you know.
I love that you said basement. I love that you said garage and basement because I mean I'm also a Wisconsinite. I grew up in Wisconsin, and so I get it. I get that. Wow, that's so funny. Anyway, I'm so glad to have been able to sit down with the two of you today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I'm going to open it up to a couple of questions. We have a little time left, I think. Do we? Maybe? Is anyone? No one's stopping me. Okay, great. So we'll open it up for a couple of questions. Do you want to take this? Anyone want to raise their hand? Anyone?
Great. I don't know if it's a question or a comment. Jonathan.
Hello.
This must happen to you with movies too. I'm watching a movie and I'm totally focused on the artwork behind them, the light fixture, the furniture, and then I'm like, oh, I now have to start this over because I lost track of the plot.
Yes,
Yeah.
I suffer from the same thing.
And like certain movies, like the Leopard,
Yes.
is worth watching just for that. The plot is immaterial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. I have it on that, Victoria, on that exact point. I have a hysterical story. A friend of mine is Peter Papp, and Peter Papp is the preeminent rug expert and rug dealer in this country. For years, he was on Antique Roadshow as the rug expert. And he is as passionate about antique rugs as I am about what we do. And when he was watching Downton Abbey, I noticed the same thing without talking to him that drives him insane. The rug in the main hall of that house that has the gallery above it, that's in almost every scene, is the cheapest, worst rug. And it's like from Macy's rug department. And even rugs not being my expertise, I'm like, that looks too bright and doesn't look, period. And sure enough, it belongs to the owners of the house, and they just used it in the series. And it drives Peter insane. And he wants to replace that rug visually every time he looks at that. And so that's what happens, for sure. Yeah.
Jonathan, wondering if you're doing any lighting design for your chateau in Glen.
That is an excellent question. I, so far, have really gone heavily in the restoration direction of the chateau because it's so magnificent inside. It has such incredible quality. And I've always said I want the mix to be like 80% 18th century France and 20% fucking that up. So we haven't done much lighting inside the chateau yet. We did do 6 lanterns from the glass ceiling in the orangerie, and those are vintage French lanterns. And Kyle and I did design a beautiful chandelier for that project. He rendered it in the room. And then we decided not to go in that direction. So I am going to do that, but I'm going to do it really smartly and sparingly, because what I abhor, one of the many things I hate, talking so much about hate today, sorry, but is the sort of Italians in the past have loved to do this, where they'll take a palazzo that has a great Renaissance ceiling, and you'll have all B&B Italia furniture, like super modern, in a really old space. So not happening. The other good thing about France is the 18th century FFF, fine French furniture, it's a real term, FFF is on sale too. Chateaus are on sale, and so is the antique furniture. So I have found some magnificent things that for just embarrassingly good prices at auction. So that's really my focus so far, but we have 18 bathrooms to do. Eventually. Yeah, there's going to be 17 bedrooms and 18 bathrooms. So for sure, a lot of that's going to be my lighting. And and in some of the big public spaces, especially corners of rooms. We did a torchère years ago. That was the Ventoux torchère. It's just a rod with a little bronze shade to go here to light up a corner of a room. And the chateau could really use that type of thing to bring light where you don't get it from a chandelier or a table lamp.
So you're saying we should order 75 of those?
Yes.
So just
for
following
the
up on
chateau.
that, your amazing lanterns that are in the orangerie, there's one that goes in the center that is not there yet. And I know Flamant was, John, we're talking about finding something for there because it's raised a little bit there.
It is.
You should put something of yours there. That's my recommendation.
Well,
I think,
maybe I will.
that I think would be so cool to take that amazing space that you've created and center that with, and it, you're the designer, but it would be really cool to have something that complements but is totally different.
Yeah. It's
Kyle,
funny,
you're thinking about that? Is it going in your head right now, Kyle?
Yeah, don't worry.
Well, what we designed was so exciting, but we didn't do it. The orangerie and the whole chateau were kind of ruined in the 1970s it was a school. It was converted to a boys' school, boarding school for 100 boys from 1972 till 2004. And they took off the glass domed roof of this curved building and put a flat roof on. So from photos, we were able to reconstruct this incredible roof, but it has a peak, like a pyramid in the middle of it, and then it has two curved arms. It looks a lot like the Grand Palais in Paris, on a much smaller scale, if you know that building, that glass roof. So my inspiration was actually the Palace Hotel here in San Francisco. If you've been to the Garden Court, that has a glass ceiling and it has crystal chandeliers. We have two French architects who Christian met, John and Florent, who are managing the project. And I said, I want to do Louis XV crystal and bronze chandeliers hanging from this glass ceiling, which reminds me of the Palace Hotel in San Francisco. And they said, oh, no, we don't do that in France. We only do lanterns in an orangerie. And there are rules for all this kind of thing in design. So we found this antique set and did them. But in the meantime, I designed a beautiful, somewhat modern version of that 18th century classic French chandelier with the big crystals hanging from it. But instead of having candles and little flame bulbs or little shades, I actually did this is not an example within this room, but our 10-inch tall Edison T8 bulb with a fluted glass cover on it. So where you would normally have your shade and a little candle, it actually has this, which actually disappears when you have all of that crystal hanging from a bronze body. So it's a very modern take. And then the whole center of the chandelier, which is usually very much carved, different glass shapes at the center. I just did this solid rod of crystal that just has a bull nose at each end and all the bronze arms attached to that. So from a distance, you're like, oh, that's a totally classic 18th century French chandelier. But then you get closer and you see what I'm doing with the lighting of the center. It's stunning. So I fully intend to do that chandelier at the chateau in many of the bedrooms, I think. But I'm kind of feeling bad that I was intimidated by my own architects into doing the right thing in the orangerie instead of doing 7 crystal chandeliers with a glass ceiling above, which would have been spectacular.
I mean, we went pretty deep. We 3D printed the whole body of the chandelier. We hung the crystals in the basement. We had it pretty well thought out. Yeah, it was just you had to get past the French guys.
Well, they were to make something to replicate the other ones, and I think at a little bit of a bigger scale. So
Right. I think so, yeah.
If I may, I just wanted to say we've purchased a couple of your fixtures and a number of times and love how heavy the crystal is and the quality of the bronze and brass. And the more opportunity we get to do that, the better. But obviously you've been doing this for a while. Wanted to ask the impact of the change of LED lighting versus incandescent and how you feel about working with that versus traditional lighting.
This guy's the genius on that, but I will say, first of all, thank you for being a client. I appreciate every single sale at our company. But I felt so passionately, I think a lot of people do, that the Edison bulb is the most beautiful light on earth. It's almost a candlelight. It has such a golden glow just naturally. It's just what it does. And when I go to design something, a sketch to give to Kyle, always the bulb that I go to still. I don't even think about, oh, maybe I should use an LED puck or like whatever. And then in the old days, I would design things and Kyle would say, well, this is great, but before I were into it, how is this going to work? Because I did things.
Let me explain all the reasons why this can't work.
Can't work. but Kyle, explain. You've gone off to Hong Kong.
I mean, it's been a rocky road because 10 years ago the LED equivalent is terrible, you know. And I've been to Hong Kong with Jonathan, with Marco. I've been there a lot of times for this lighting show. It's pretty terrible, I'll tell you. It's a massive thing. It's miles of walking, but you go in and each booth has 200 light bulbs. So if you want to be blinded, go to this light show. But it is great because the technology there, you learn very quickly. Everyone's doing the same thing. So you learn exactly what's going on. And I think the LED replacements we have now that look like T8s, and they're coming really close. They're dimming well. They're warm. You can get them to look like orange if you really want. But you can see around the showroom, they all don't match quite yet. But we're getting there, and I think technology is going to allow us to kind of stay incandescent forever, which is great, you know?
Yeah, is the current, explain how it works, that if it's an exposed bulb, it's part of the design?
Yeah, so California is regulated on all these incandescent bulbs, but there's really a big loophole because if the bulb is exposed, like a T8 bulb or another bulb you're going to look at, they actually say it's decorative, so they're never going to stop allowing us to buy them.
If it's part of the design.
But in reality, those long bulbs last a matter of weeks or a month if you leave it on all day. So who really wants to get up and change their light bulb? If we can have an LED version that looks like an incandescent, that we don't have to get up on a ladder ever, of course, that's the way to go. You know, and we're getting close, I think. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Thank you to my beautiful assistant and also co-host, Laurent Robefal. Thank you so much. Thank you again for joining us today and for sharing so much with us. And thank you, all of you, for being here. And so this recording, we are filming it and all of that will be available, like I said, on YouTube, Spotify, and all of the places you can find your podcasts within the next few weeks. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate all you guys coming.
Thank you.